Welcome to Billy's Books. Today I'm going to do a literature classic, Herman Melville's Billy Budd. Everybody knows Herman Melville for Moby Dick. And if you've ever read Moby Dick, you know it is a monster of a book. It's a whale of a book. And it's very, Herman Melville uses very high language. It's interesting because he uses very high language to often describe something very simple down on the ground, but he's way up using all sorts of abstractions and references and illusions and other things, and lots of tangents and stuff. That's just the way he works. So this is true also for this particular Billy Budd, this novel. Now, just so you know, this is an unfinished novel. I was like, what Melville should I read next? And a lot of people said that Billy Budd is his best, but it turns out that he died before he finished it. So it was he had not prepared it for publication. As far as I've gotten, as you may know from listening to my other things, that I often don't finish my books when I do the report, so I don't give away the ending. This is like one of those cases. I'm just partially into it, and I'm going to give you my impression of it while I'm reading it, rather than the retrospect. Anyway, so as far as I can tell, it seems pretty finished, but of course I haven't seen the ending. Billy Budd is a character in in a boat. It's not a whaling boat this time. He got pulled from a merchant boat to a Royal Navy warship. He was impressed, if you will. And he was a foretopman. That's one of the guys that sits way up on the top and looks down and looks around and stuff. And there is a particular breed of people, a particular breed of sailors. Billy Budd is also known as the handsome sailor, because apparently Billy Budd is a good-looking guy. And he wasn't just a good-looking guy, but he was an amiable guy. Everyone liked him very much because he was good-looking and very friendly and easygoing and unpretentious. All these things people liked about him most people liked him very much. In fact, when the Royal Navy showed up and said, "We're taking Billy Budd from your boat to our boat," the captain of that boat, he said, "You're going to destroy my ship because these are a rowdy bunch, except for Billy Budd, who his presence calms them." And of course the Royal Navy was like, "We don't care, see ya," and took him. But there are a couple people that resent him. There's a guy, the master at arms, Jimmy Legs Claggart. Now Jimmy Legs Claggart he's an interesting character, but he keeps on going by Billy Budd and giving him flattering him all the time. And Billy Budd is not an ironic person, so he takes everything at face value. And it's not like I choose to take things at face value like I do. Like, I'll just ignore that you're being an asshole and be nice, back. He's just actually nice. And so when Claggart sort of mocks him with "Oh, that's the beautiful sailor, the handsome sailor, looking good today," as always, Billy Budd doesn't really catch that he's mocking him. He's like, "Oh, thank you." The writer hints that perhaps Billy Budd, despite the fact that he's just a lowly sailor, may in fact be highborn, but just, orphaned or something like that, and somehow he's a highborn guy in a working man's job. The implication also is that Jimmy Claggart may be a commoner who's worked his way up as far as he can, which happens to be just above Billy Budd. So they hint that maybe there's some resentment from Claggart, maybe some envy. Perhaps even Claggart's commenting, "Oh, looking very nice today," may actually be a little bit threatening. And most of the sailors around don't catch it, but there's Billy Budd being so sincere that he did talk to one older gentleman on the boat, and he asked him about it, and he's like, "Oh, it's very simple. Claggart has it in for you." He's down on you. And you go, oh, why would that be? So more theories are perhaps Claggart also has a disdain of innocence, because, and I personally have experienced this with one of my summer jobs. I had a summer job once where I was, a construction worker between 2 years of school, and the foreman there was like college boy and he picked on me all the time, and he was like, real work is hard and miserable, and he had that whole aesthetic, and he even seemed to think that athletes shouldn't get paid, and things like that. So he gave me a hard time, that guy. So I associate that foreman with this Jimmy Claggart, Master at Arms, messing with Billy Budd, except that I was, being a college boy or whatever, I really could tell he was giving me a hard time, whereas Billy Budd seems to be relatively clueless, and then he can't understand it when he finds out that someone does dislike him. There's another theory maybe going around, different, with literature like this, everyone has their own theories. I'm just going to throw these things out. Perhaps Claggart was gay. Perhaps he envied him in the sense that he was handsome and young and everyone liked him, and Jimmy Claggart maybe liked him too, but resented the fact. It's, all that complicated, emotional, irrational stuff that might be in there as well. There's even a more postmodern interpretation where Billy Budd is a black guy. Kind of, like Bigger Thomas or something like that, really strong and mighty, but a threat even though he's on the bottom of the totem pole. Of course, that would be more of an interpretation, because they do talk about Billy Budd's beautiful yellow curls. Not to say that the occasional black person might not have yellow curls, but maybe less so 200 years ago. I could be wrong. There's plenty of contradictions in these interpretations, but that's what makes it fun. But yeah, so Melville takes a simple story and turns it into something really deep with his high level of intellectualism. I'm going to read you a couple quotes. This one from page 39 is a little bit long, but it's such enjoyable language, maybe you'll enjoy it as well. The nickname by which he goes among them, Jimmy Legs, implying under the form of merriment their cherished respect and dislike. But in view of the greediness of hate for patrolmen, it hardly needed a purveyor to feed Claggart's passion. An uncommon prudence is habitual with a subtler depravity, for it has everything to hide, and in case of an injury but suspected, its secretiveness voluntarily cuts it off from enlightenment or disillusion, and, not unreluctantly, action is taken upon surmise as upon certainty. And the retaliation is apt to be in monstrous disproportion to the supposed offense. For when in anybody was revenge in its exactions aught else but in an inordinate usurer? But how with Claggart's conscience? For though consciences are unlike as foreheads, every intelligence, not excluding the scriptural devils who believe and tremble, has one. But Claggart's conscience, being but the lawyer to his will, made ogres of trifles, probably arguing that the motive imputed to Billy in spilling the soup just went when he did. One of the compliments, I have to interrupt here for a second. One of these very few scenes that happen, since it's all very few scenes with lots of talking above it, is Jimmy Claggart walked by one time when Billy had spilled the soup, and he made a snotty comment, or a flattering comment that could be considered snotty. Probably arguing that the motive imputed to Billy in spilling the soup just when he did, together with the epithets alleged, these, if nothing more, made a strong case against him, nay, justified animosity into a sort of retributive righteousness. The Pharisees, the Guy Fawkes, prowling in the hid chambers underlying the Claggarts, and they can really form no conception of an unreciprocated malice. Probably the Master-at-Arms' clandestine persecution of Billy was started to try the temper of the man, but it had not developed any quality in him that enmity could make official use of or even pervert into plausible self-justification. So that the occurrence at the mess, petty if it were, was a welcome one to that peculiar conscience assigned to be the private mentor of Claggart, and for the rest, not improbably, it put him upon new experiments. All of that is to say, Billy Budd spilled some soup, Jimmy Claggart walked by, made a snotty comment, tried to get a rise out of Billy and failed, so I guess I'll try something else. That's how I interpret that. But I just love his language. Oh yes, so at some point while he's up in the when he's up in the forecastle, that's not the same word, up in the top, there's another guy up there because there's more than one guy up there, and he comes over and he says some pretty subversive things to him, whispering. He goes like, what? Subversive? What? And he's not really sure, but there's hints of mutiny. And I don't think Billy fully gets it initially, and when he does, he's kind of horrified, but he's kind of doesn't know what to do. It's like, because he doesn't know how to react to something like that. The more he turned the matter over, the more he was nonplussed and made uneasy and discomforted. In his disgustful recoil from an overture, which though he but ill comprehended, he instinctively knew must involve evil of some sort. Billy Budd was like a young horse fresh from the pasture, suddenly inhaling a vile whiff from some chemical factory, and by repeated snortings tries to get it out of his nostrils and lungs. There you have it. That's the Melville Billy Budd. I assume this is going to be, I don't know how this plot's going to go. I assume he's going to get caught up in some mutiny. He'll probably try to resist it and then get caught up in it anyway. Perhaps he'll stay innocent and be accused. I'm sure Jimmy Claggart will not be helpful, but maybe he will. Maybe he'll return. Maybe they have character development. I don't know. Anyway, that's the joy of reading, doing a book review before you read the end, but it means I'm not giving away the ending, right? So, enjoy yourself. I'm enjoying this book, but you have to like Melville to enjoy Melville. If you don't like Melville, I wouldn't recommend reading Melville. Anyway, Billy Budd, Herman Melville, if you can't do, review.
Lost your phone off the net, I was alone. Birds in the sky fly so high they don't